Bored of games? All this and more coming up on This Week in Retro.
High-resolution color graphics.
This land of high technology.
The revolution in technology that made the information age possible.
Those kids are not afraid of computers.
Hall of Fame games.
Old masters never give up. Sega Master System still in production in Brazil. Still.
Merry Christmas, Amigans, because that's when the A1200 has been delayed to, and I'm actually happy about that.
And news from Sierra Online and Melbourne House, along with a new Commodore 64 on FPGA, coming up on this week's show for the week of Saturday, the 16th of May, 2026.
Up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.
Hello, everyone. Some time ago, we said if you're ever starting up a user group and you wanted us to let people know, then tell us. And that's just what's happened. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Lovely to be here.
Joe has joined us. Joe is starting up a brand new user group, and unlike most of the ones in the UK, it's not the Amiga, so even better. It is for the best 8-bit micro ever made. What is it, Joe?
The Amstrad CPC.
Fantastic. Tell us about that.
So it started out just in our kitchen and living room. Myself and my other half, Simon, we had Amstrads way back when people had these things, and we had them in our living rooms and bedrooms. And we just kept going, really. Simon a bit more so than I did. We had some friends round. We got our Amstrads out. We fixed stuff. We programmed stuff. We played games. And it just kind of kept growing and kept growing. And then Adam in our group just had the energy and said, let's do it, guys. Let's go for a meetup. There isn't one. We should have a UK meetup. We partnered with Chris Green, and he's really been amazing for the ticket sales, the location. It's the day after Retcon, our event in June. We have Roland Perry is our honorary president. We have the Spanish AUA coming over for our event. We've got game competitions and much more.
And that's my former CU Amiga colleague, Chris Green, right?
Yeah.
And there could be other Chris Greens in the UK, but... Hi, Chris.
There's only one Chris Green. He took the name and no one else allowed it.
That must be one of those council rules. Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm delighted you're doing this. Unfortunately, it's a bit too far away for me to visit, and I've got other things I'm going to visit this year, but this is one thing I would have liked to have go to, because I had an Amstrad growing up. This is an Amstrad show. Chris, you had an Amstrad growing up, although it wasn't a CPC. And producer Duncan had one as well. Founder Neil had one. Jason, you've heard of it.
I have heard of them. I have seen them occasionally.
The nice thing is, in our group, we're like multilingual. We like all retro things, and we like all Amstrad retro things. So it doesn't matter what you had or what you didn't have, maybe you've heard of, they're all welcome, because it's all about just enjoying the hobby, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So when's the first meet?
The first official open one is on June the 21st. It's the summer solstice. It's down in Surrey in the UK, just below London.
Long way away from me.
It is.
Almost
it is.
as long
a little
as
bit closer for us, but a long way for you.
Yeah. Well, good luck with it. I hope it goes well. There'll be links in the show notes. I hope anyone who is thinking about it, give it a try. What's the worst that can happen? You'll have a bit of fun, and you'll meet some people who are like-minded. We should get on with the show, though.
Viewer Mr. Chip 1984 posted a fun comment on last week's episode. You are giving so much love to Rochester, New York. First the Strong Museum of Play, and now Xerox. Next week, could you do a whole thing on Kodak, and then you got the big three? I looked around, but regrettably, there was no hot retro news from Kodak this week. No retrospectives on the disc camera or some stop-motion film made entirely on Advantix film or any such thing. So we're going to go back to Rochester because the Strong Museum is back in the news this week, also courtesy of Mr. Chip. And they're announcing the latest inductees into their World Video Game Hall of Fame. 4 new titles joining about 50 or so that were already inducted into what really is a physical and playable Hall of Fame right there in Rochester, New York. It is at this point that I will ask, Mr. Chip, are you a member of the Rochester Chamber of Commerce? Anyway, the Strong takes nominations at from anyone at any time across all formats, arcade, console, computer, handheld, mobile. And they say that their final selections are based on these 4 criteria. Icon status, the game is widely recognized and remembered. Longevity, the game is more than a passing fad and has enjoyed popularity over time. Geographical reach, the game meets those above criteria across international boundaries. And influence, the game exerted significant influence on the design and development of other games, on other forms of entertainment, or on popular culture and society in general. So before we talk about the 4 new inductees, I want to ask my colleagues, did any of the selections on the previous inductee list catch your eye?
Well, there's a good mix there already. I mean, there's from Space War to Barbie to John Madden, which should be Football Manager instead. There's a wide range of games that anyone born in 1990 who got a SNES handed to them at the age of 8 and played console ever since would have probably heard of. I'm of course delighted to see Ultima there, as it should be, even if it does appear to be representing a gargantuan genre of games that aren't there. When this has been brought up before, I've always felt that the game selection is just a little bit slanted towards what's most popular and famous rather than what's most influential. But yeah, I don't think it's terrible.
And Ultima's a case, because this is going to come up later, Ultima's a case where it's standing in for, at minimum, volumes 1 through 9, possibly the Underworld titles as well, or, Worlds of, or,
Ultima
whatever.
Underworld belongs in that Hall of Fame. Even along with it. Yeah, it belongs there.
But like, it's notable because they do kind of lump them all. And I'm just, I'm not the expert here, but I'm going to say that the gameplay experience of Ultima 1 and Ultima 9, fairly unrecognizable.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference across there. But I mean, it is a good selection. You can't represent absolutely everything. There's only 50 odd games here and so on. And when you start to look at the types of games that are there, we'll come on to the new one soon. We start to look at the types of games that are there. Yeah, they've got a broad select. They've done a pretty good job, even if it's not exactly what I would choose.
But that's the case where they're saying, it's like inducting Genesis into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and like, no, not just the Phil Collins era, even the boys from the school in 1968, all of them are in. All right. Chris.
Yeah, no, it's a good list of games. It's interesting how some of them are like the arcade version, Space Invaders, for example, whereas for Asteroids, they're looking at the Atari 2600 version. Resident Evil's in there, which we've mentioned in previous weeks as being important for the horror genre. I like the image they used for Quake, simply because they've also included an issue of PC Format magazine, which came with a cover disc full of Quake tools. And it's reminded me, because I've been racking my brains, which magazine had that disc. And now I know, so I can go and look for it.
It's working on multiple levels. I love the fact that Asteroids is in there as well, as along with Tetris. That really simple, elegant replayability is absolutely lovely. SimCity made me go, oh, yes, fantastic that it's in there. And again, so many variations, and it's recognised and representing a bigger industry. And then, as you say, it's contrasting with other things like Wii Sports, which maybe got a whole generation moving and investing in new TVs after they threw a control at them.
I'd spotted a little bit of satisfying both audiences business maybe in there. They've got both Super Mario and Sonic. They've got both Pac-Man and Ms. Pac, which I bring up specifically because like Ultima's standing in for a whole bunch of Ultima, but Pac-Man and Ms. Pac, that's like, oh, no, we're going to induct Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel and Genesis. All of them get their own, their own section in the Hall of Fame here. And I would be remiss if I didn't stand up for the text adventure genre and say that I think it's a pretty raw deal that Colossal Cave Adventure is the only game from the genre represented. We're covering similar ground with Pac-Man and Ms. Pac. I'll also, the fact that they used the Coleco mini arcade version of Donkey Kong as the thumbnail was kind of hilarious and random because they didn't really mention that implementation in the game's profile, and it's not especially the best, but I guess they have it in inventory, so they were showing it off. Anyway, their 4 new inductees for 2026 are Angry Birds, which I guess beats Artillery Duel and many of the other artillery games for kind of being a massive hit. Those other games had the influence that get you to Angry Birds, but hey, I mean, this is undeniably a massive game across all the dimensions, so tough to argue, right?
It's interesting seeing Angry Birds there because it almost feels out of place because it feels too new or we're aging too fast, and I'm not going to accept the latter. But you can't argue with the fact that, would you call it a killer app as touch screen devices were really coming into the mainstream? Would that be what we would call a killer app? I mean, everybody was playing it, right? So, yeah.
But that's the point, is it's the zeitgeist. It was really big at the time, so therefore it's going to be influential.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I remember seeing the types of people that I didn't think would be the types of people to be distracted/obsessed by video games, getting distracted/obsessed by playing Angry Birds. So that, I think that's kind of your big influence there. Dragon Quest is the second inductee. This is remembered as being a major jumping off point for the Japanese RPG phenomenon. I will admit that that is mostly where my knowledge goes about this storied game, first released 40 years ago by the team of Yuji Horii, Akira Toriyama, and Koichi Sugiyama. My colleagues here, I don't think of you as being big JRPG guys, but have you played any of these, or Joe?
Dragon Quest, it is a JRPG by definition, but it's in its soul, it's what is kind of Ultima Wizardry's kind of thing, that they've taken that and they've moved it over the sea to Japan, and it's not what you would recognise now as a JRPG, really. So it's definitely belongs there because that's the kind of genesis of where JRPG came from. So it does belong there.
Third inductee, FIFA International Soccer. Talk about playing both sides. I got to figure this has been advocated for some time, since Madden has been in since 2018. Madden also kind of standing in for a whole swath of Madden games. Like Ultima and FIFA, this is standing in that way. But again, they break out Pokemon specifically as Pokemon Red and Green, and Street Fighter is specifically Street Fighter 2. Sure, fine. All fine. And Silent Hill is the fourth inductee. This was credited by the Strong's curators as advancing the horror genre past the mark set by the milestone Resident Evil 3 years earlier. They really dig the game both on its storytelling and how much it squeezed out of the then original PlayStation hardware platform. And they had some runner-ups, including Frogger, Galaga, League of Legends, Mega Man, Parappa the Rapper, a game that everybody knows but nobody bought, RuneScape, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and Tokimeki Memorial. Anybody have any remarks on what's in, what's out? I did notice some comments in the, I think it was in the subreddit post, that's saying, like, kind of shocking that a successful but very derivative game like Angry Birds is in, and Frogger and Galaga still sitting on the sidelines.
I mean, Frogger's a classic. How can you not have that in there?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bat for Angry Birds, reluctantly. Angry Birds is the first game to get 1 billion downloads. Therefore, it belongs, even if it does turn out to fairly quickly be a game of luck or buying your way through by design rather than the skill. And the rest of the games, again, this is all, it's console centric. This is for people who, I mean, this is very mainstream console playing recommendations there. Skyrim, of course, belongs in there. If you're not going to put Ultima Underworld in, because Ultima Underworld is what led to Skyrim. RuneScape's a fascinating game to put in there. I've never played it. Highly addictive. Lots of people play old school RuneScape. League of Legends.
Well, yeah, just when you said it's console centric, I just had to highlight that and go, well, I don't know, half the internet's just going to pounce on you there, Dave. Because
I know.
That's more PC.
Yeah. But they've got arcade games overrepresented, I feel, already in there. They've got quite a lot of arcade games. Anyway, it's really easy to nitpick it, but I just want to go back and say, if you look at what they've got there, they've got a fairly broad selection of games, so they have done well. League
of Legends, I mean, that is an important game. Skyrim's interesting that didn't take one of the places. I mean, that's such a big game, such an immersive game, and so open world, not just in terms of the environment, but in terms of the character development. So, and that's not even my kind of game, as you guys know, but we've played it quite a lot in this house simply because it was new at the time. Yep, and I've even tried it in VR, but even though I've got quite sturdy VR legs, not in that game. Oh dear. 10 minutes and then I'm down on the couch for about an hour.
Baldur's Gate 2, Jason, where's that?
Yeah, no love for Baldur's Gate. I didn't see any D&D, direct licensed titles in there. For Elder Scrolls, you got to figure maybe that's a thing. When you're running a Hall of Fame, you got to kind of, you got to parcel things out over time. So the fact that none of those games were in, probably saving up for some anniversary or something like that. Joe, any other takeaways?
You said about the sorry.
No, go ahead.
You said about the criteria, but who does the judging? Who actually decides what ends up in there?
I didn't see them say who their blue ribbon panel is, but the vibe that I got was that the Strong does it internally. Perhaps our friends over there will drop us a line and let us know exactly how this works.
Look at Andrew back on again from the Strong to defend his choices. We can do we can have him on as a guest, and the three of us will We'll grill him until he cries. No, we won't do that.
Hopefully not. Of the list of the runners up, I think Frogger, which is at the top of the list, not alphabetically, but just the way it worked out. That would be the one that I would probably put in. It's kind of an important game for, I mean, not truly non-violent in that your frog can get squished, but the player is doing non-violent action, and it was a very successful early arcade game, and I think that's pretty significant. But there's always next year. So if you are interested in the authentic gameplay experience of one of these Hall of Fame or honorable mention titles, you could head over to Rochester, where I'm sure the members of the Chamber of Commerce would be happy to see you. You could seek out the original media or the stand-up arcade machine, as the case may be, or you can experience it through emulation, or you could play the home game version. Now, it turns out that subreddit poster Lightbulb Joe, is an enthusiast of tabletop cardboard adaptations of video game concepts, old and new, and posted an article and a video that's taking a look at some new examples of this genre, including a new Pac-Man adaptation, looks like of it's an existing maze game called Corridor, QU, and Level 10, which is one of those newfangled cooperative games set in a landscape of familiar pixelated video game backdrops. And then Joe also in the video takes a look at this thing that's called 8-Bit Box. Help me, Joe, because the more I read about it, the less I understand it. This is a, quote, board game system, and it's meant to be extensible to other video game-themed board games. Please explain this to the home audience. I keep getting lost.
Yeah, it is very weird at first, and I had exactly the same problem. It's like, is it an 8-bit thing? I don't understand what this is, because there are new consoles and things coming out, so it could have been one of those. It's 3 tabletop games. Your cardboard stuff, your dice, your cubes, all of that kind of stuff. But it's themed around an 8-bit console. So you open it up and it looks a little bit like that. So the controllers are cardboard. So for those of you watching the video, I'm just holding up bits of cardboard stuck together. They've got dials on. It just looks like your average everyday kind of controller. And what you have then are a variety of games. It comes with 3 games. And they're just bits of cardboard you put out on your tabletop and you do stuff, much like every other board game. And it's to give you the retro feel without necessarily having the techie knowledge.
So there is a long and proud, or if not proud at least, hey, heck of a try there, pal, history of cardboard home adaptations of arcade classics. And, keeping in mind, back in the day, early 1980s, the best you could get for a home adaptation of an arcade game was necessarily going to fall well short of the mark across multiple dimensions. The idea of playing a board game adaptation was not entirely crazy. I will probably be hearing from my parents after they watch this one, because I know I'm going to be forgetting at least one home game version that I had. Thank you. But I do absolutely remember having the Pac-Man board game, complete with the little movable plastic Pac-Men, which kind of sat and gobbled up these marble dots to collect them, as well as the Zaxxon board game adaptation, which had the mechanic of like ships raising or lowering their flying altitude as part of moving around the map. I first became aware of the 21st century interest in bringing video games back to the cardboard tabletop experience when my friend Victor, hello Victor, tried to make me play Civilization the board game, which I really hated because I felt it was making players do way too many things on paper that the computer could just do in the background if you were just sat down to play Civilization. I also resisted playing Twilight Imperium for the same reasons, and I argued I could just go play Master of Orion on a computer. Rah. Now, I was wrong about that because I quickly came to love TI. This trend is also showing no signs of slowing, by the way. There is a tabletop miniatures adaptation of StarCraft coming soon, as Joe also tipped us off. Anybody want to share any of the big-time favorites of classic video games brought to the gaming table that I might be forgetting?
The one that everyone forgets is the Siege Perilous, which is an Ultima. Get that? Get counter it. It's an Ultima RPG that was never made. And there's maybe a little bit of irony there because Ultima is one of the main reasons why I stopped playing games with other people like board games and so on, because the computer was finally, along with Ultima and Dungeon Master and so on, finally able to play games on a computer that were compelling and scratched the itch for me, and I've never been back. I'm not saying I'll never play board games, tabletop games and so on. I couldn't fit it in. It seems like such a difficult thing. Can we make it this week? No, I'm cancelling. I can't make it. Something's coming up. I think I just need to retire. But I do have a cynical wonder about these things, Joe, and I hope you can correct me and set me right. Are these board game adaptations made to be played, or are a lot of them made to be on the shelf for people who are a fan on what they're based on?
I think there's definitely a few camps there. So for me, out of the ones that I put in that video, 2 of them are really kind of good to be played, I think. And one is what I would put on my shelf of shame, as they call it in the board game world. I don't know if you say the same thing in the video game world. And I think things like the 8-bit box for me are much more about having a look and having a play and taking it out and kind of having a bit of a laugh at it. Whereas the other games, actually, I want to play those. I want to get them out and move the pieces around. And the Corridor Pac-Man version is actually really well made. And this is a huge, huge area, the more I look into it. So BoardGameGeek.com has a section of games to what they call are video game themed. It's got over 2,000 items on there. So we could talk all day about this, and still there would be people shouting at the screen, but what about this one? I'm addicted to Age of Empires, the definitive edition that's come out from the remastered from the 90s. I played it on my PC. There's an Age of Empires 3 board game, which is really just a thematic nod, so I've resisted buying it. But there is a card game that looks really good. I'm going to need to try and get hold of that one to scratch that itch, as you say, when I can't be at my computer.
I feel like the Age of Empires board game was another one that I just looked at. I'm like, absolutely not. There's no way I'm playing this.
Even the tablet. I got the tablet version recently, and literally over like 3 minutes, like, no, it's not Age of Empires for me. It's a different thing.
You made me grin ear to ear, Jason, when you're talking about Pac-Man and Zaxxon. They were by MB, I believe, the board game editions, because we have both of those in our house as well. Same Christmas, I believe. Pac-Man was given to me and Zaxxon was given to my brother. Pac-Man, I played with that until the marbles went missing. And then Zaxxon, interestingly enough, I'd never played the arcade game back then. So the board game didn't really appeal. But again, I remember you had the extender thing to change the height of the ship. So now that I've played Zaxxon on the Atari 2600 and the arcade ROM on my main cab, now the board game makes sense, right? All these years later, which is quite interesting. I have to say, though, because some of these things can be quite collectible. Unfortunately, not the Zaxxon box set that we had, because the bits inside it, the molded pieces that went on the board, including like brick walls and stuff, they ended up as scenery for a model railway, I believe. So, because we just didn't play the game right. It was either that or it was going in the bin, so whatever.
Lose it.
Exactly, yeah. I recently picked up XCOM, actually. It was actually from the local tip shop, but it was completely sealed, still with the wrapper on it. So I assume everything is complete and inside. I'm yet to play it, but, you know, that's a cool thing. And I believe, according to my boys, so my sons, they are avid tabletop and board gamers. And through their friendship group, I've heard that apparently it's a really good game. And they've also played the PC version as well. So, yeah, that's held in high regard. Other modern iterations I can think of a board game that was a video game, and these are ones that we've played in the family as well. One is Deep Rock Galactic. Played that both on PC and the board game adaptation, and that's really good fun in both formats. And Mechs vs. Minions, if you're not aware of it, is it's basically a tabletop game derived from not a console game, Dave. The League of Legends. So it's based on the League of Legends universe, and that is really good fun as well.
So, Dave, that Siege Perilous, you said it was an Ultima RPG, so like a pen and paper, D&D style RPG?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That one totally
based in the world of, I think it was not in Britannia. I think it was based in the original Sosaria before things within the realms were split up. That's for anyone that's for about the 3 people in the world who knows what that means. But yeah.
But don't get it mixed up with, there's a game called Under Siege, which is set in Arthurian legend. And that's a whole different thing I read about. I was like, really? This is what Dave was talking about?
Yeah.
And then I found the Ultimate one. I went, oh, no, this is it.
Is there not a film called Under Siege with Steven Seagal in it?
Steven Seagal, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Quickly get you a lot of overlap in media when you start looking for Siege Perilous. So.
Well, that's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down, is movie game crossover, right?
Oh. Not today, though. Because Hall of Fame classic games come in all shapes and sizes. Some don't even plug in. I'm going to register a couple of nominations for the Strong's 2027 class and keep an eye on how things unfold. Unfold, by the way, not being a pun related to opening up a Zaxxon home board game session, but I really am now thinking about wanting to have one more crack at that gameplay experience.
We are sponsored this week by Pixel Addict magazine. Pixel Addict are a 6-weekly magazine They're about to come out with a new issue. It's exciting. What's going to be in it? We don't know. Haven't got a clue. They haven't told us yet. Normally they tell us a couple of days before it, and it must be due imminently. You can go and you can subscribe to Pixel Addict. It is Britain's best-selling tech history magazine. You can get it delivered through your email, or you can get it shoved through your letterbox or put in your mailbox, but they won't put the little thing up because that's only when you've got mail to get picked up. I've learned something.
So I was thinking of you guys because somebody went through the neighborhood and was just putting up mailbox flags recently. I don't think it was the fine folks at Pixel Addict.
I assumed that would be a thing, right? I assumed when I heard how it worked, surely kids are doing that.
Surely
we
they
used
are.
to swap around pot plants. We used to go and swap neighbours' pot plants for each other.
You had a deprived childhood.
The other thing we used to do was we used to get bags of milk delivered on a Saturday. You get milk bottles through the week. Then a Saturday it was a bag of milk. And we took a razor blade and slit the top of the milk so that when you picked it up, it went everywhere.
A bag of
That's
milk?
not nice.
I have never heard of a bag of milk.
How does milk come in bags?
Well, like your Sainsbury's carrier bag and just tie a knot at the top.
and our listeners in Ontario are going mad because that's
think of it like the little packets you get in McDonald's of tomato sauce. Think of a great big one of those with milk in it.
I guess it's like a wine box, but without the box, right? I can relate to that one.
Yeah.
Wine box. Yeah. Not that I've ever taken the bag out to squeeze the last little bit. I don't do
Rolled
that.
it all up like toothpaste to get the last.
It's not just me. Anyway.
Have you heard of Pixel Addict, Joe?
Of course I've heard of Pixel Addict. It's absolutely amazing. They do all the different genres. And the fact that they did an Amstrad one recently, and that's still available. You can still go and have a look at that digital, or I'm sure you can get one posted through to you. And that was a really nice look back. I used to work for Amstrad Action back in the day. And the fact that I was flicking through it and it was like 90s Amstrad Action, it just warmed my heart. And I was actually chatting to the publisher recently, Jonah Naylor, and he said of the recent issues, and he is a bit biased, but he did say the latest ones are absolute belters. So you've heard it here first.
Thank you for sponsoring us. If you want to go and get yourself one of those, where would you go, Chris?
You'd probably go to addict.media, I reckon.
Today's submission is from Pajako, and it's an article on the unique situation in Brazil with the Sega Master System, or in the USA is known as the Sega Master System, an 8-bit console launched in 1986 in the US, 1987 in Europe, or if you want to win quiz points, it's based in the Sega Mark III and came out in 1985 in Japan. It's a lovely red and black console, and in the days before Sonic, you would play as Alex Kidd or Psycho Fox in a console supposedly more capable than the NES. Didn't shift quite as many units as the NES, but it shifted lots, and it lasted longer. And that's what today's article, submitted by Pajako, is. It's from Benjamin Zeman on XDA Developers, and it says, the Sega Master System is still being made and sold in Brazil. It's not, but that's what the article says. It goes on to explain that Brazil's gaming culture wasn't late to arrive because of a lack of interest. It was boxed out by policy. During the late 80s and early 90s, import restrictions and complex tax structures made most international consoles difficult or impossible to buy unless obtained through smuggling or the grey market. The policy was called Reserva de Mercado, and it made it illegal to import personal use computers until 1992. So they had to be made in Brazil, or I presume the same as lots of things that are made in the UK arrive here with a couple of screws left to put in. So I assume there was some kind of assembly in Brazil. And it led to a fascinating sort of homebrew scene with similarities to the Soviet Iron Curtain until 1992, when the companies that were doing these knockoffs and so on suddenly faced competition from the rest of the world and struggled. One of these companies, though, is Tectoy. They started in 1987 in the free economic zone of Manaus, which to the best of my ability seems to be the Brazilian Silicon Valley. Launching the Master System in 1989, and amusingly the Mega Drive just 1 year later. They're still around today, Tectoy. They did keep selling it with proper chips, but as you might expect, they did cost downs using things like ASICs, a fairly common thing in the industry, and then switched to system and a chip stuff, but still using real Z80s. And then finally, sometime around 2007 to 2009, as best as I can tell this is, they switched to using the familiar ARM-type arrangement where it's an emulator making these consoles pretty much the same idea as the current minis that we have, like the Spectrum and the C64. The cart slot was dropped at the same time as well. And looking at the PCB, there's just no easy way to access the storage. So the 130 or so games that they come with now are locked in. You can't change them. That's what you've got. Now, I've seen articles on this before, at least a dozen times. It's a nice thing to talk about the funny situation in Brazil and how it's unusual. And they all have this air about them that they're not properly researched. So I thought I'd go ahead and do proper research, unlike the article that Pajako submitted. And I spoke to a friend, Mr. Green Fox, on our very own Discord with the Retro Collective, because he lives in Brazil. And I spoke to my friend Dudley of the YouTube channel Yesterzine, because not only is he a big fan of what he calls history's greatest console, the Master System, and it's hard to argue with him, he's also incredibly knowledgeable about these things. All signs point to this thing being actually out of stock, and that production finished on it around 2022. And the remaining stock has been selling in retail since then and is now running out. According to Mr. Green Fox, you can't easily find these anymore. Tectoy themselves have a website, which is geo-blocked, so you can't access it except in Brazil, and it shows the item is out of stock there as well. Very few new units available for sale now, again showing it's reached the end. And that does make sense. I can understand why it survived all this time. It wasn't an expensive device, around $50, but there's emulation devices around now at that price point, which are better and do more systems, and you can add your own games to them. It's still remarkable, though, that the Master System held on for so long. As for the console itself, well, the 132 games it comes loaded with, my friend Dudley tells me around half of them are legitimate official Sega Master System games. The remainder are hacks or Game Gear conversions. I asked, well, would you call this the Master System's greatest hits? And he says it's mostly the Sega published lineup. Most of the European titles you would expect to see are not there, with a couple of exceptions. And most Sonic games are actually missing after the first one. And there's no Disney platformers either. But there's still plenty of games, and I think they're all licensed. I think it's all done properly. Dudley has one of these, and it's a nice-looking thing. Duncan will put pictures up. It's a nice-looking thing, shiny blue, with a picture of Sonic on it and the words Master System and a 6-button Mega Drive-style controller. So I think this article really barely touched the surface of a really fascinating thing, this development in Brazil that was different to the rest of the world, and that's fundamentally interesting. And the article is fundamentally true, if it's not quite technically true. Brazil had a different system to everyone else. As a result, they have unique things, including a Master System that stayed in production, let's say, at least 30 years. What do you think, Chris?
I like stories like this where something in the rest of the world we assumed is dead and buried is just continuing on as a current product in another part of the world. And a bizarre one that springs to mind, not computer related, but bear with me, is the Volkswagen Beetle. So from 1974 onwards, what became known as the Super Beetle. So we're not talking the much later model that came out in the year 2000. I'm talking original style Volkswagen Beetle, engine in the rear where it should be. They continued to make those in Mexico, I'm pretty sure it was, until around 2003. So, and I know this firsthand because I owned a 74 Super Beetle, and it was quite easy to get parts for different places around the world, you know, that kind of area of the world being one of them, because they were still making the parts until that late, which is quite amazing. Even if this Master System was still being made at this point, though, like you said, Dave, it's now at this point more of a plug-and-play preloaded system on a chip. So it's hardly the same thing as the original, and you can't use original cartridges. So it hasn't continued on in the same way as a 74 Super Beetle. But again, the Master System is on my hit list of systems that missed me back in the day that I would like to re-own. But I must confess, it has to be the very first version for me. I just think it's a gorgeous looking system. Even now, it looks like something, it just looks like something from the future, even in 2026. That's my take on it.
Joe, the Amstrad CPC range went out of production, I think, in 1993 when the 6128 Plus was discontinued. It's been out of production for 33 years. I'd like to see the Amstrad CPC come back And if Retro Games Limited or someone wants to make a CPC Mini, I can feel it coming, I'm sure. What would you like to get, and do you think it's likely?
Absolutely. There is a sort of way you can get it, which is you can 3D print your own case and make your own one up. So for those of you on video, I'm holding one up right now, and it looks just like a 464, but without the tape deck. Quite frankly, it's a little bit smaller. And this is my other half's one. He 3D printed it. He soldered it, which was a labor of love. And somebody had said, will you make me one? He's like, absolutely not. No, not going to do that. It's based on Archer's design. It maintains all the original design. It looks like a 464. It's completely functional. Keyboard works, even though Simon got the S upside down at one point. It uses the CPC ESP emulator, which is by Victor Iborra, and that's all on GitHub, and that's far more complicated than I'm interested in. Because if you don't have the tech skills, like I don't have those kind of skills, the CPC, wouldn't that be amazing? There's 100,000 sold of the A500. So it makes commercial sense for someone to do it, I reckon.
But without the big tape deck in it, because otherwise it's a baseball bat size thing.
Yeah. It's like the huge old stereo boomboxes you carry on your shoulder.
Yeah. But it looks so good. Alan Sugar famously wanted it to look, the Mug's Eye really wanted it to look good, and it did look good. But it was actually good as well. By accident. I'm not sure Alan Sugar meant it to be as good as it was. Jason, what do you think about the Master System?
Well, first I want to ask, is Mr. Green Fox, does he enjoy the kind of exclusivity that Chris Green does? Is there one and only one Mr. Green Fox?
I think so. I think there's only one Mr. Green Fox in Brazil. I think that's the rule as well.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, it is kind of hilarious that the experience of, being a Brazilian and the equivalent for us of engaging with one of those, knockoff Nintendo clones that has a bunch of, hastily assembled games in a hastily assembled menu. Like that's the canonical and official and, or at least reasonably official, likely regretted long-term contract made under the duress of protectionism, Sega Master System experience for a significant segment of the Brazilian population. I'm gonna just briefly stand up here for free trade and avoiding dumb things like this. My degree is in economics, and my international trade course was not my strongest. The professor was getting over a life-threatening illness, so he was often low energy and kind of sluggish in his presentation. The class was like literally as far apart from my previous course as it could possibly be, so I was always a couple minutes late. So it was not my strongest showing, but I did learn enough to know that free trade is good. Don't do dumb things like this 25 or 35 years ago.
There's a fascinating Amstrad-related story that someday we will tell about the Amstrad CPC 472 to do with Spain's protectionist tariffs, but not today, not today. Joe, what do you think about the whole Master System thing? We never give you a chance to speak about that.
I think it's really interesting, regardless of how technically true and how deep that story is. It's a really interesting point that Jason makes about the import restrictions and taxes and the whole economic struggle and how things are so different in different countries, and the local gaming market can be quite different. And I really like, there was a good point in the article that it was about important memories that older people had, and then they're introducing their kids to it as well. So at the UCAG event that we've got coming up in June, we've got people wanting to bring their kids along. And actually, I've done some social media marketing on this. It's like, chip what? Tape what? Because it's just part of the education of understanding where things have come from. And I think the last thing that's really important here is there are some very technical purists, and that's absolutely great if that's your thing. But I think things like emulation is important to make it much more accessible to a lot of other people.
Yeah, and that's where the things come in.
Yeah.
Buy it, unpack it, stick it in, and that's you good to go. I think we'll pick up on that later on, Chris, won't we?
We could do. Yeah, let's save that for later, yeah.
I did want to pick on two other highly upvoted stories I felt were kind of related to this in the subreddit this week, both on Microsoft. And one is that there's a shock outrage story that Microsoft is still using code from the 90s. And I think I agree with the subreddit commentators who say, well, that's fine, isn't it? What's wrong with that? If it works, it works. So thank you, OKYarn894, for the submission. And the second is that NetHack, the 40-year-old roguelike, supports DOS, even though Microsoft don't. Support DOS now, just like it did back in 1987. And thanks again to Pajako for that but don't rush out and try and get hold of one of these master systems. Brazil uses PAL-M, which is actually NTSC, but uses PAL colors, but it's 60 hertz rather than 50. So absolutely nothing that you plug this into will work with it. I think you get black and white if you plug it into an NTSC telly, but I don't think you'll get this to work normally otherwise. Maybe it's a nice thing for your shelf, though. We are recording in a couple of days our Patreon special extra episode for this month, so patrons can look to seeing that sometime soon. What's the theme on it? Is it Desert Island? Is it Nuclear Bunker?
Well, we're doing the hardware version, yes. If you're stranded in space, you're in a nuclear bunker, wherever you want to be stranded. If you want to do the Desert Island thing again, that's fine. But what
space,
specific hardware?
In a nuclear bunker on a desert island.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All of those valid.
I look forward to that. So thank you for your support, patrons. It is much appreciated. If you'd like to join them and see what the patron content is, then go to Jason.
Patreon.com/thisweekinretro.
And on to news in brief, and Good Punk 2 links us to a page of the Wolfenstein 3D manual, which has translations of the German that the enemies shout at us. Donnerwetter.
They say it just like that. Evening Cell 1127 tells us about his mate Tony, who used to work for Melbourne House and has uncovered a big box of discs from when he worked there, as well as the fact that he's working on a new game that's going to take advantage of the Ultimate 64 capabilities. We would like to know more about Tony. Get in touch.
But Jacko links us to an interesting video on upscaling Sierra games being upscaled. So there you go.
More bad news for those of you running Linux on very old computers. They're cutting away at viable, current, very modern CPUs. Soon, support for the AMD K5 will be removed from the kernel. Thanks, Squelch411, for this troubling news.
Atari announced the acquisition of the legendary CRPG series Wizardry, originally produced by Surtec, and the inspiration for Dragon Quest. Specifically, they now own the first 5 volumes, and according to the press release, in 2024, Atari's studio Digital Eclipse published a remake of the very first title in the franchise, Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord, that ingeniously layered modern graphics over the largely text-based Apple II original. Perhaps they are setting the stage for more remakes of this ancient old game.
Yeah, Wizardry doesn't just lead to JRPGs, it also gets you to Bard's Tale. And I think you can argue that Bard's Tale gets you to the SSI Gold Box games, because what's a Gold Box game? But okay, we're going to start you in the Bard's Tale view, but then we're going to switch you to tactical combat rather than just fight and run. So Wizardry is super, super influential.
Yeah, Bard's Tale kind of took the best of what had come before it, like Ultima and Wizardry and so on, and made a step forward, certainly. Yeah.
And finally, this week, a tiny C64 called the Isepi Zero C64. There's more space on the board for connectors than there is the actual logic. Thanks to JPC Rights for that. Anyone know who that is?
Yeah, I think I know. And I think it's pronounced Ice Pie.
Ice Pie. Oh.
Is it? It's not Isepi. Maybe it's now pronounced Isepi.
It's now pronounced Isepi.
So this is an interesting project.
Yes. You can have it with spaghetti, with ravioli. It's fine. It's the best pie ever.
This is an interesting project in that it's a combination of a bunch of different CRPG, FPGA project cores all on one. I'm a little less excited than I'd like to be because it is PAL only, and the creator was like hand wave,
yes.
Maybe I'll boo. But it is interesting in that it's stitching things together. I'd be interested to see how it rates compared to some of the other possible implementations out there. But hopefully we'll hear more soon.
Can you not get PAL to NTSC converters?
But then you've got the whole timing of the games thing.
Okay.
Which you Amstrad people would know more about that if we actually cared enough to have NTSC Amstrads. But
good.
Yeah, but you know what NTSC stands for, right? Never the same color twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you'd like to submit stories or just heckle me, please head over to reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro.
When news of the A1200 came out last year, I was very excited to say the least. I thought the A500 Mini was very well done, but a full-size brand new A1200 at an affordable price is, in my opinion, not to be sniffed at. And look, once again, if emulation isn't your thing, that's great. Buy something else, but please don't gatekeep the hobby for others. I like the affordability of these entry-level nostalgia drugs like this. They're well placed for people who don't want to tinker and just want a nostalgic-looking plug-and-play device that doesn't cost the earth, and that is where products like this fit in. With that out of the way, what did disappoint me last year was the release date. Keeping in mind, pre-orders opened back in, I think it was November of last year, and I really thought that this may be a perfect Christmas present for lots of people, but most importantly for myself, as I really do like unwrapping things like this under the Christmas tree. It is legit part of the nostalgia for me. But sadly, the release date was set for late June 2026. That didn't stop me ordering one, of course. Well, good news, because according to two posts from Retro Games Limited, the VA1200 has been delayed until the 4th of December 2026. The reason is, and I quote, global chip shortages and rising plastic production costs, which have taken time to mitigate, have significantly delayed our overall schedule. This has had a knock-on effect on development. Whilst functional, the operating system isn't yet where it needs to be. We could ship with a more basic OS, but that wouldn't do justice to the A1200. This machine is about delivering the best possible Amiga experience, and that means taking the time to get it right, end quote. There's more to cover here, but first I want us to have a bit of a discussion about, what do you think of this delay and the reasons they've given? Dave?
So on the one hand, I could say, look, just ship it with a functional OS. Does it really matter? And update it later because it can be updated? But I think that's wrong. Even if what Commodore themselves did with the original Amiga back in 1985 was ship it without an OS and say, just load it in discs, we'll give you the discs along with it. That's not right for this. Well, Atari did it as well. Well, not was it? What was it? It was Kickstart that came in discs.
It was Kickstart.
So you had to that extra board in it.
So you had to boot the Kickstart from disk, and all the Kickstart did was look for a disk.
Well,
So
there's ROM routines in there that were being stored in RAM.
Yeah. It was difficult back then. Atari did the same thing, and that's why we got the Atari 260, because half the memory was taken up by what should have been the operating system and ROM having to be loaded in from disk. But this device isn't the same as that. It's meant to be a switch on and play device. Firmware updates for it should be possible, but they shouldn't be major. It should work out of the box, and the majority of people should never do a firmware update. It should be fine as it is. I presume oil prices mean that plastic production costs are up, and they've had to let themselves be bumped up the list to save money and hit the price point. Fair enough. They've got a price point to hit. They don't have a great deal of margin in this, I would imagine. So, yeah, fair enough.
Nobody wants anything underpowered at this point. And I think if we look back to like the 80s, everything was so competitive, the market, that things were being released early, as you said. And I don't think we're in the same place now, even though with the slew of everything coming out, waiting to get the right product is probably the better move.
I don't have a whole lot to add other than, c'est la guerre, right? Like, the reasons are the reasons, and if it's not going to ship, it's not going to ship. And glad you're taking it in stride, Chris.
No, fair enough. I'm definitely taking it in stride. It's one of those things I kind of forgotten that I've pre-ordered anyway. Do you know what I mean? Seems to happen more and more.
I forgot about that. It just reminded me.
Oh, Hedrick, yeah, what was that Spectrum thing? Something that's probably coming next. Anyway, there's more. Thank you. There is more news. The first post was an attractive letter to the community, which many people probably clicked on because it was quite enticing with its blue background and digital signature from Chris Smith, Chief Technical Officer. The second post from Retro Games Limited you might have missed because it was a dull black on white screen grab of an FAQ covering 13 points. Some of it's important stuff. Well, it's all important, but important things like what happens with my pre-order and can I cancel? And it's all good news. Their responses to each thing was, as would it be expected, yes, you can cancel if you want to, but if you don't cancel, then your pre-order through whichever retailer you can ordered it through, that pre-order will still stand, according to them. But nestled way down at question 11 is the question, what games will come pre-installed? And that's the one everybody wants to know the answer to, right? So they chose this method as a way of quietly dropping what people are saying is the full games list, if not very close to it. They say, and again I quote, question, what games will come pre-installed? Answer, the confirmed lineup includes Alien Breed, Tower Assault, Beneath the Steel Sky, Defender of the Crown, Defender of the Ground 2, It Came from the Desert, and Heads, It Came from the Desert 2, The King of Chicago, Lords of the Rising Sun, Lure of the Temptress, Mercenary Escape from Tog, Reshoot Proxima 3, Rocket Ranger, Rough and Tumble, Strategic Defense Initiative, The Settlers 2, Sinbad and the Throne of the Falcon, Slam Tilt, Turrican 2 The Final Fight, Turrican 3, TV Sports, and Wings. Now, I've certainly got my thoughts on this games list, but guys, is this what do you think of this list? Jason?
Yeah, tell me we have the Cinemaware back catalog for cheap without telling me we have the Cinemaware back catalog for cheap. It's not a terrible list of games, but there's a very, 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 very visible theme to it. Samey isn't quite the term for it because they're fundamentally different games, but yeah.
Action, adventure, kind of cinematic things. I mean, they're a lot in common, yeah.
Mm-hmm. True. Joe, are there any games that particularly scream Amiga to you? Not just in this list, but if you were thinking Amiga, what games would perhaps spring to mind?
The first thing that springs to mind is Lemmings. I played that on the A500 a million years ago.
For sure.
If you can't get that, get Pushover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, what do you think of this list?
Mercenary is a phenomenal game, but why have they picked the first Mercenary and not Damocles, which is Mercenary 2 or Mercenary 3? The first one, to me, is an 8-bit game. They've got Beneath a Steel Sky and they've got Lure of the Temptress, both from the same place. So to echo Jason's comments about Cinemaware, they're double dipping there too. If I was to pick 2 point and click to represent the Amiga, I'd pick one of those two and Simon the Sorcerer, which I'm fairly sure they could get licensed from AdventureSoft.
Love that.
And again, they've got Turrican 1 and 2 and 3. There's a wide range of time cover there, which is good. They've got 1986 right up to 1996, and then there's a 2023 new game and a 2025 port of a 1996 game. But I'm going to say on balance, that's a fairly poor list of games. I'm disappointed with it. There are no beat-em-ups, there are no flight sims, there are no racing games, there are no driving games, there are no RPGs, and there are no puzzle games. And Amiga had plenty of those. They'd plenty to choose from. Even if they can't get the ones they want, they can get something.
It's interesting that you say that there's no flight. I mean, Wings, it's not really a sim. It's more of an arcadey, story-led shooter. But the A500 Mini had F-16 Combat Pilot. And so why I find this as bizarre is, A, they kind of stuffed up the controls on that. I'm not going to hark on about that because I've told them directly. But also it doesn't really fit the format of this mini console with not enough buttons for an engaging immersive flight sim, which F-16 Combat Pilot is. This was their chance. It's a full-size keyboard, no flight sims.
I love the fact that there's Simon the Sorcerer. And I know by puzzle games, you might mean something more traditional as a puzzle game. But I remember Simon the Sorcerer being very blooming puzzling, quite frankly. So for me, it would satisfy that need. But fair point otherwise.
There's another important thing in common between Beneath the Steel Sky and Lure of the Temptress in that they're both free. So neither of those games are cutting into the budget either.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, that's possibly true as well because the Revolution have released them for free. Yeah. But yeah, there's several genres there that Amiga had lots to do on, and they could include there. Even if it's not Lemmings, even if it's not Pushover, a puzzle game of some kind. But yeah, flight sim of some kind, an RPG of some kind. Even if they don't manage to get Amber Moon in there, or Dungeon Master, get something in.
When we covered the C64 and the Spectrum, the handhelds last week, I did say that given you can sideload games lists aren't that important. But actually, if I'm true to my, this is a plug-and-play retail device, well, actually, the games list is really important because if people don't want to tinker, not everybody wants to go searching for ROMs or even knows how to. So I think the list looks fine. There's something for everyone. Keeping in mind, Retro Games Limited can only preload games they have license for. And that can be harder with old games because sometimes you can't identify or contact the current right holder. And that doesn't automatically mean you can use it. It means the opposite, in fact. And on the flip side of that, I'm not surprised that there are no Psygnosis games, including Lemmings, because the rights holder for those is Sony. And I'm sure that's going to be no legal picnic either. That's probably potentially expensive or tricky to navigate. The Lotus Trilogy, equally, we do need a driving game here, but the Lotus Trilogy would require a license not just from Gremlin, but from Lotus. And maybe many people don't realize how complex these things can be.
I couldn't agree more, but I mean, this has to be a box curated experience that represents the Amiga fully, but it doesn't. But it has to be something you plug in and it works, and it has to be complete from the word go. Sideloading isn't the answer. But there's a huge list of Amiga games. If they can't get the Lotus license, maybe they could get Supercars or Supercars 2. I don't accept that they couldn't find any driving or racing games to license, or no RPG or no flight sim. I think retro games themselves have a list of games that they own. They could look through that in more detail, or they could just pay the cost to get decent games on it.
Yeah, no, I agree in part. Seeing the Turrican trilogy, that's great. I'll mention is also Mercenary. It is a great game, like you said, Dave, but it is from the 8-bit era. But it's still a wonderful Amiga title. Joe?
Well, it does say in the screen grab, it says the confirmed lineup includes. So there might be more stuff that comes out later. Absolutely.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well, actually, Joe. Yeah, it's all in the wording. It's definitely all in the wording. I do see. Alive. Yeah, I do see, like Dave has mentioned, that there's a lot of duplication, and also things like they've mentioned Alien Breed Tower Assault, which is great, but where are the first-person shooters? Anyone who spent more than 5 minutes, most people just only play them for 5 minutes, but if you spend more than 5 minutes actually playing games like Gloom, Gloom Deluxe, Alien Breed 3D 1, and more so 2, they're actually really good games. And so from the Alien Breed ones, they've clearly got a Team 17 license here. So why is there no Alien Breed 3D 1, which they did have on the A500 Mini? And why is there no Alien Breed 3D 2, which is the one everybody, generally on a real Amiga, you'd need an 060 to play that well. Here's a great opportunity to have a nice playable version on a plug-and-play device. So licensing challenges withstanding by swinging towards a similar list. The list does still, I think, scream nostalgia and Amiga, and that is what it needs to do. It's just clearly not catering for everyone. Let's not forget, though, that they have not stated that these 22 games are the definitive list. And as Joe stated there, they have stated that the confirmed lineup includes these games. So that's the wording they've used. I guess we'll have to wait until closer to Christmas to find out, and I have no problem with that at all. Thanks, Elk 1984, for letting us know.
All right, this is the most blatant case of ballot box stuffing I've ever seen. Chris, tell us about this fraudulent community question of the week.
Fraudulent community question of the week? Don't know what you're talking about because I haven't looked at the answers yet. The community question of the week last week was, you can add another The Handheld to the upcoming line to join the C64 and the Spectrum. What retro system are you picking? So, are we out of contest mode?
We're out of contest mode, yeah.
Fantastic.
Come on, guys.
Right.
You got to be a little more subtle. Joe, would you like to read the top answer?
Organic, genuine, honest answer.
Sure.
This is what the public want. They're screaming for it.
I think Joe has to read the first one. Yeah.
I think I have to, because C Worldliness 7525 says, the CPC, of course. They say, I like to think of having a full-size cassette deck so it could double as a Walkman.
Ooh.
Sure. Next one down, Antiques for Geeks. I'd like to see a Mega Drive handheld system realized with the Sega Nomad design language. Really coveted one for ages after I saw the machine in a CEX off Oxford Street in London in the late 90s, but the price tag put me off. And then speaking of ballot box stuffing, yeah, this is the other case.
Jeff Mendoza says the Sega Saturn is still somewhat difficult to emulate and a bit heavy for the common FPGAs, so playing it on the handhelds is still a bit rubbish. I would like it if someone fixed that.
Nice. Other things I've mentioned, since there's four of us, Rowan Forrest says the IBM AS400.
Now, see, that's a fun answer. That's a fun answer.
Yeah.
I like Crafty Log. Crafty Log says Blake 7 Aurak, or True Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Obviously all powered by the internet with a massively overpriced subscription. That's next on my wish list. Fiskit, I like what Fiskit said. What does Fiskit say, Jason?
The
Can't
Atari
read
ST
it. Doesn't show up on my
See
screen.
the Atari ST often enough on here with a full set of Pompeii Pirates discs numbered, so you have no idea what's on it until you boot the disc. Pompeii Pirates is where I got all my flight sims. They loved the flight sim, the Pompeii Pirates, so they did.
And you can't say something like this without saying the colony activist who says Al's Gizmo from Quantum Leap. Love that. I did download an app recently for my phone, but it wasn't quite the same when I hit my phone. So,
But that already is a handheld. The whole point of the handheld is to.
well, that's why it's way down the list.
And that's why the AS400 is funny, because they're enormous.
But it's a bit like the laptops that for the Amstrad PC laptops. We just called them luggables. They were like breeze blocks. They were huge. So this week's question of the week: which video game would you like to see adapted as a board game, or which board game should be converted to the screen?
Fantastic. Where should they go to put the answer to that question, Dave?
They should write it on a postcard and send it to us by mail, or you can go to the subreddit, reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro, and find the question of the week and submit your answer there and read everyone else's and tell them what you think about them.
Or you can put the answer in a milk bag and drop it on Dave's doorstep.
Yeah,
Free razor.
milk bags of milk. Thank you very much for joining us, Joe. I hope you had fun. Thank you for joining us. Good luck with the Amstrad meet. Links in the show notes. If you're anywhere close by, consider going. Be good fun.
Or even if you're not close by, make a weekend of it. And thank you for having me. It's been a really good laugh.
Thanks for
Bye,
coming
folks.
on. We should wave now. Everybody's
I'm waving.
I'm waving. Jason's waving enthusiastically. Jason, go on. Smile on your face.
You can do it. Put some effort into it, man.
I don't actually stop waving. I just wave all week long. Bye.
Bye.
This Week in Retro was written and presented by Chris from 005 AGIMA, Jason from the Retro Adventurers, and Dave. It was edited by me, Duncan Styles. The podcast version of the show is available through your favourite podcast app, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And the video version is available on the This Week in Retro YouTube channel.
Join our community subreddit at r/thisweekinretro to suggest and vote on the stories we cover on the show. Please give us a like and subscribe to help us reach new viewers.
If you enjoy our show and would like to support it, then please check out the link to our Patreon page in the show notes or description. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time for more up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.